Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Big Rican on Sports podcast. I am your host. I am the Big Rican. As you can see, part of my head's cut off. And no, it's not because there's no hair left on it. I've already shown people that. Nope, it's because of who I got right here. So I told you guys a few weeks ago that we had a little boy a little early, but he has been home now since the 14th of May, and he is calm for now. So say hi to Bobby. This is little Robert. With his New York Mets Wubba Nub. Of course, that's the one he should be using every day, and it is. So I'm just going to talk real quick. It's not going to be a long episode. I will get back into the swing of things starting next week, but I want to hit on a couple things I ran into this past week that I just could not ignore, and we are going to start with something I saw on YouTube from the Rich Eisen show. Now, Rich has a real problem with the guys in Major League Baseball using foreign substances, as do I. I was a pitcher. I never used that stuff, and I was still able to get guys out. So here's what my issue is. You hear people in the media hammering Major League Baseball, the steroid era this, the pine tar that, these guys getting caught doing this. I want to remind people of something in the sports world. The greatest dynasty in NFL history and the greatest player in NFL history have 4 championships that are tarnished by suspensions or fines or punishment levied by the NFL front office. And that, of course, is the first 3 Super Bowls of the Patriots era when they were recording other people's practices known as Spygate, and, of course, the year Tom Brady had 2 of his henchmen deflate the football for better grip in Deflategate. Now, agree or disagree with how stupid or how idiotic the whole Deflategate thing was, I agree it was stupid. Here's the bottom line. Punishment was handed down by the league and a suspension was served. So, NFL guys, get off your high horse. If you're going to criticize baseball and pitchers using pine tar, you really got to stop saying somebody's the GOAT without bringing it up. Now, I will say this. Rich Eisen, who was a staple on SportsCenter for years with Stuart Scott, maybe the second best anchor combo in SportsCenter history behind Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann. They're like the 1 and 1A. He did say, listen, I was on TV during the steroid era and I was help pump all this stuff up, and he, mea culpa what he did then, but then went on to talk about what he felt was wrong now. And again, he's not incorrect. He's not wrong. I mean, these pitchers who are getting caught doing these things, he did knock it off. So that was the first thing that he brought up. The second thing, he did a segment on watchability of Major League Baseball. So I'm going to ask everyone out there a question. And when you listen to this, I'd like an honest answer. If you want to hit me on Twitter, which I'll give you later, or on Facebook or what have you. Your significant other comes up to you and says, honey, or you say to them, I got to do A, B, and C. Going to take about an hour. 3.5 hours later, you're just getting these things done. I don't know about you, but I love my wife dearly. But if that happened, it would tick me off a little bit. Now, if the same person if my wife came to me again and said to me, hey, we got to do A, B, C, and D. Not really sure how long it's going to take. And it takes a lot longer than what you think it should. You were given no timetable. You can't really get mad. You can, but then you're the jerk. You're right there. Anyways, so you'd be less upset at the no timetable, in my opinion, or I would be anyway, than I would be if I was told this will take an hour and it takes 3.5 to 4. So it begs the question about watchability. How is something more watchable that has an hour time clock, but something that does not have a time clock and you have to earn every second, how is that more boring? Yes, I am talking about the time it takes to watch an NFL football game and the time it takes to watch a Major League Baseball game. Thanks to little guy right here, I actually was able to watch the Mets last night. Quick game, from what I understand. But for me, baseball doesn't matter. It takes how long as it takes. You have to get all 27 outs. You can't kneel on the ball in order to make sure that no one else can try and score any runs. Speaking of last night, Are we just handing Jacob deGrom the Cy Young Award now? After 2 months in the season and 8 starts, he has a .71 earned run average. Here's the stat that kills me. Hitters are batting $138. Let me make sure I got this right. Hang on. They are hitting... Okay. The first time through the order, Major League Baseball is hitting $164 against Jacob deGrom. The second time through the order, hitting $138. The third time and beyond, .063. In the age of statistics and analytics, that is almost unheard of. That a pitcher would have that good of a number as the game goes on. Now you got guys like in Tampa Bay and even some pitchers with the Mets, where if you get to that third time in the batting order, you're gone. It doesn't matter what kind of game you're throwing. Doesn't matter how good you look. Just look at the World Series last year with Blake Snell. Blake Snell was unhittable in that game. Third time through, we yank you. That's just the way it goes. Tampa Bay loses the World Series. deGrom was absolutely masterful last night. 6 solid innings. Solid. 6 innings, two hits, no runs. The other stat that kills me is he's hitting near 500. As I try to put the binky back in his mouth. He's hitting near 500. He has accounted for 7 runs between runs he has driven in and runs he scored. The guy's only given up 7 runs all year. And 3 of them are unearned, which means Jacob deGrom has given up 4 earned runs in 8 starts. That is insanity. That is next level. And the sheer fact that there were more Met fans than Arizona fans yesterday at the ballpark, they were chanting MVP. And if he hits 350 and drives in 10 runs and wins 10, 12 games and only allows 15 or 20 runs to score for the entire year, now we're talking. He's Ohtani, but only allowed to play every 5th day. Think about that. And this also may be the last year we see him hit, as they may go to the universal DH starting with the next CBA, which is next year. So the other thing I learned last night was, after the game, is that the New York Mets this past month used 21 different position players in the month of May. They went 17-9. The New York Mets at this point in time, where a week and a half ago had 17 players on the injured list. 7 of the 9 guys who started on opening night were on the injured list. Last night, they got Seth Lugo activated. They got the Polar Bear, who had 2-run single and a 2-run bomb that still hasn't landed yet. And, of course, Kevin Pillar, less than 2 weeks from the day he got hit in the face and broke his nose, was in the game last night as part of a double switch late in the game and got a base hit in his 1 at-bat. So it was a great night in Arizona as the Mets beat the Diamondbacks to win their 5th in a row. He's getting a little fussy. It's okay. It's okay. It's almost dinner time. I'm kind of extending it so I can do this real quick. So I'm at the 8.5-minute mark. So I want to give a couple of shout-outs, and then we're going to get this thing posted and out of here. I will come back with a full first 2-month wrap-up for the Mets sometime the end of this week, beginning of next. I'm also hopefully going to be back on with Willie and Nat on Shakeback Sports and the Family of Baseball podcast. It's been trying to get used to his schedule, which is why you haven't heard much from me. So for everybody who does listen and I don't communicate with, like Alex and Tone, who I talk to all the time, I apologize for not being on for so long, but I've been kind of busy. So the 2 things I wanted to shout out. First of all, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, because I haven't been on since then, especially my wife, who celebrated her first one this year. Second thing, my best friend and my parents' wedding anniversaries were days after each other, the 20th and 21st of May. You're okay, buddy. 20th and 21st of May. Mike and Tina celebrated their 16th wedding anniversary. My parents, their 44th. And then 2 days ago, as I hold the infant who is not quite 2 months old in my lap, my oldest daughter, Caitlin, turned 20. Hard to believe that on May 30th, 2021, I was doing the same thing I was doing on May 30th, 2001, and that is feeding a baby in the middle of the night. So the last thing I want to bring up as we eclipse the 10-minute mark, 9 years ago tonight was a seminal moment in New York Mets history. It is a moment that I did not think was going to happen. It is a moment that when it actually happened, you knew where you were. You knew this would be a moment that you would remember for the rest of your life as a Met fan. And that, of course, is the moment when this happened. Not the ad. Of course, I'm trying to play the YouTube clip of the final couple of pitches here. And Gary Cohen's call of the final out of Johan Santanas no-hitter. The first no-hitter in New York Mets history.
Takes it for a strike. That's a strike away. In their 51st season, Johan Santanas has thrown the first no-hitter in New York Mets history.
9 years ago tonight, I saw something I didn't think would ever happen. And as that night unfolded for me, it kind of went like this. My wife and I were having a night home alone. We were going to clear out the DVR. It was actually the episode of Ridiculousness we were watching was the one where Duff Goldman was on and made the scorpion cake. Hang on, let me pass him off. As the older boy, say hi, Zach.
Hello.
The older boy takes the younger boy. You got the thing right there.
Yeah.
And I can finish this quick. So we were cleaning off the DVR. We were watching that episode. My wife goes to the restroom. My buddy Nick, who we've heard on the podcast before, sends me a text that simply reads, Johan has a no-no through 6. I turned the game on, which I told her I wouldn't do. She came out of the restroom. I said, honey, one of two things are going to happen. One, he's going to give up a hit. We're going to go watch our stuff. Or two, we're going to see history. And with the strikeout of David Freese on the 135th pitch of the night, Johan Santana finished the first no-hitter and only no-hitter at this point in New York Mets history. It's hard to believe it's been 9 years. But both Mike Baxter and Johan Santana gave their shoulders for that game as Baxter crashed into the wall to rob Yadier Molina of an extra base hit. And, of course, Santana, who injuries really knocked his entire career in New York off the rails, was never the same after that. As a matter of fact, I think he pitched 1 or 2 more games after that, and that was it. So it's been 9 years, and it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that 9 years ago the Mets finally got a no-hitter. You hear Gary Cohen say it has happened. And in their 51st season, Johan Santanas from the first no-hitter in Mets history. What I didn't get to was Howie Rose on the radio. And his was a little more poignant to this. In the 8,020th game in the history of the New York Mets, they finally have a no-hitter. Well, after earlier this season when Musgrove threw the no-hitter, there are no teams currently that need one. The Mets in San Diego were the last ones standing. So later this week, I will come to you with a full first 2-month wrap-up as we get into June. Something to look forward to. After the All-Star game, Tone, Alex, and I will come back to you with the MLB podcast. We break down the first half, the statistical first half of the season. We make predictions for the second half, and we talk about things that really kind of blew us away from the first half. As always, Big Rican can be found on YouTube, Big Rican on Sports, Facebook, Big Rican on Sports, the Twitter handle at Big Rican on Sport, Google, Google, Breaker, Anchor, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and now just ask Alexa, play Big Rican podcast, and it will come. It should come up. It can be she can be a pain, but it's done it. Have a great rest of your night. Enjoy the first week of June, and let's hear it for the biggest lead in divisional play. Let's go Mets. Oh, and don't forget, timeskewed.com is a proud member of the Timeskewed Podcast Network.